Now to America, where authorities have banned the wearing of masks in public, despite backlash from the international community over concerns of spreading the coronavirus and preventing the decline in COVID-19 deaths, a clear sign this government is not slowing down its crimes against humanity, according to Chinese President Xi Jinping. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. That fake news segment there was just to show how easy it is for a newscaster to paint a picture of a whole other country that someone hasn't been to and, sort of give them this view that isn't real based on blowing one piece of news out of proportion. And, that was actually based on a story that came out of Florida. So it could be, it could have happened where another country took that news story and basically slandered America. I think the real story about Xinjiang came out in 2010 in a Wall Street Journal article when it reported on the rising costs of labor in China. But a narrative started to form, and it came from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute in a report called Uyghurs for Sale. This is a think tank funded by the military industry, specifically by weapons manufacturers. News agencies from Australia, Canada, US, UK have taken this story and run with it. And when they take trips to China, they don't actually find anything. And they'll take satellite images and just say that it must be a prison camp. It must be a concentration camp. They're trying to make it look like Chinese government can't let them get a story when it's completely not true. It's not a difficult place for journalists to be. It's not a difficult place for tourists to be.
I'm walking around Xinjiang for you guys, showing you what it's like on the ground. Okay, there is a police officer here. So there are some police officers. Okay, so there are. But they're not like stopping anyone. They're not carting. Look. Hey. 你好，你好，我可不可以问你，最近有没有什么问题？这个地方有问题吗？就是没有发生什么事。OK， 因为你是警察，所以就想问一下，都是好的，都是好的。OK， 好。Hello， 我是加拿大人，我讲英文，对 ，Hello， 好，华裔，华人，对。你是本地人是吧？维族 ，OK， 我想学一点维族话，但是我都忘了，好像你好是雅克斯，对，雅克斯么子的，雅克斯 ，OK， 雅克西 ，OK， 可以说雅克西 ，OK， 谢谢，拜拜。Oh my god, I just had a conversation with a cop. That was amazing. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm freaking out. That was amazing. I never dreamed I would have a conversation with a Xinjiang street cop. And I had a camera in his face the whole time.
Comparing it to 1930s Germany, to Nazi Germany, comparing it to that is completely false and unfair and just insanely unrealistic.
It is very difficult to believe any economy with scale will use forced labor to maintain its competitiveness. Cotton production in Xinjiang is a scaled economy from a global perspective, so any outdated production methodologies will have to be obsolete.
I took this video on a plane in the morning, which is quite clear to show the geography in the region. This is the Taklamakan Desert, the second largest shifting sand in the world. A large proportion of people living here. The severe desertification has made it hard to live off the land. But with the vocational and language skills, people have more options, have more diversified options in addition to farming. Children do not have to be farmers if they don't want to. Today, more and more farmers are working in the factories, and Xinjiang is getting industrialized. Then in January, the US banned the cotton and tomato products from Xinjiang, which are two of its pillar industries. Xinjiang cotton accounted for over 90% of China's cotton production in 2020. For people from Xinjiang, like me, I'm very proud of the quality of Xinjiang cotton whenever asked by people outside of the region. The US cotton ban doesn't promote human rights here, I think. And it is hurting the people by squeezing out opportunities and making the job market harsher. The end result will not be happiness, but the pain.
The yellow peril, also known as yellow fear or yellow terror, is a racist color metaphor that represents East Asian peoples as an existential danger to the Western world. This 19th century racist ideology was supported by the media. It was propaganda used to encourage the European empires to invade, conquer, and colonize China. In light of the discussion that's taking place in the United States around anti-Asian hate crimes, I think it's really important to talk about that it's actually specifically anti-China hate, with Donald Trump calling it the Wuhan virus and Kung flu, and basically rallying his base around this concept of the virus being a China thing and a China problem that they're imposing on the rest of the world. I feel like we're not addressing specifically this anti-China sentiment, and we have to, because as a country, America is choosing to be anti-China economically. It's called a trade war because that's just an attack. It's not a win-win. Punishing China but not really helping the States. When you study Chinese modern history, you see it actually has a track record in the past 40 years suggesting that Chinese people or the Chinese government only wants prosperity for China. They have not launched wars despite all the military power that they have.
Immediately, right away in this meeting that's supposed to be diplomatic, within the 2 minutes, they immediately say, hey, China, we got some issues with you, with your human rights abuses in these regions. We don't like that. And we're going to be adversarial where we need to be. And what China says, I think, resonates with a lot of us in the United States, okay? Our values are the same as the common values of humanity. Those are peace, development, fairness, justice, freedom, and democracy. So I thought that was interesting that he mentions democracy in there, because a lot of people, I think, myself included, have this idea that China doesn't have a democracy. And the United States has its style, United States style democracy, and China has the Chinese style democracy. It's not just up to the American people, but also the people of the world to evaluate how the United States has done in advancing its own democracy. So he says, in China's case, after decades of reform and opening up, we have come a long way in various fields. In particular, we have engaged in tireless efforts to contribute to the peace and development of the world and to upholding the purpose and principles of the UN Charter.
We call it strategic defense. You stabilize your own country through economic development of the population. You don't go around bombing and killing people like the United States, Britain, and NATO does, but by developing those nations, by building economic relations, building infrastructure as the China-Pakistan economic corridor. This is the best way China can protect itself, by creating a buffer zone around it of economic prosperity and stability.
The US-China relationship could be amazing. It could do wonders for the rest of the world. And I think that our media is to blame for not properly educating us about what's happening in China because of being against China's rise and only seeing it as a threat to Western dominance.
The United States is the only regional hegemon in modern history. Most Americans don't think about this, but the founding fathers and their successors went to enormous lengths to ensure that we would dominate the Western Hemisphere. That involved conquering huge swaths of territory and making sure that the power gap between us and Mexico and us and Canada, us and Brazil, us and Guatemala was enormous, so that they could not cause us any trouble. We used to say when I was a young boy in New York City playgrounds, you want to be the biggest and baddest dude on the block. Not because you're malicious or you have bad intentions, but it's the best way to survive, because the more powerful you are, the safer you are.
Americans always say, oh, we love America, America number one. When you say this, that just implies everybody who doesn't look American is secondary. If you treat them, not as human beings, somehow that's probably is okay.
So it makes me sad that not only do our politicians and leaders see China through this prism of fear, but also the media. The media is taking this attitude, just like the politicians, that we are the moral authority here. And this actually can fuel racism, I feel. It can fuel anti-China sentiments that become anti-Chinese people sentiments. I feel that there's so much misunderstanding because of the miseducation and misrepresentation of China in the media.
China's population is 4 times that of America. China will inevitably become the world superpower. That's okay. We don't always have to be number 1 because China still respects America. China still wants to have a trade relationship with America. Chinese parents still want to send their kids to an American university. There are so many positive, things that are happening in America. It's not like America is going to collapse if we drop down to number 2.
That's it for this video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will talk to you in another one. Take care, and bye for now.